It is a Saturday afternoon in July. You're standing over the big cardboard bin at the grocery store, and there must be 60 watermelons in there, every one of them striped and green and telling you nothing. You pick one up. You thump it, because your daddy thumped them, though nobody ever told you what you were supposed to be listening for. You carry home a 12-pound melon, you ice it down good, and you cut it open at the kitchen table in front of the grandkids, and it is pale, and it is mealy, and it tastes like cold water with a rumor of sugar in it. $8 straight into the compost. Now here is what the fellow stacking that bin will never tell you. That melon was never going to be sweet. Not on your counter, not in a week, not ever. My people were reading watermelons in the field 200 years before there was a grocery store on this continent. And there are 7 signs on the outside of a watermelon that tell you exactly what is waiting on the inside. Stay with me all the way to the end, because the last thing I am going to show you is the reason a watermelon cannot get one bit sweeter after it leaves the vine. It is one specific thing about how this fruit makes its sugar, and once you understand it, you will never carry home a bad melon again. I am Wes Kingfisher. I am 64 years old. I am of Cherokee heritage, and I was raised by my grandmother Ada in the hills of eastern Oklahoma, where I still live today, on the same place with the same garden. Ada grew watermelons every summer of her life, and she could walk a patch of 40 melons and lay her hand on the sweet one like it had called her name. She taught me how she did it. Today I am teaching you. Now the watermelon is not an old fruit to my people the way corn is. It came up out of Africa, and it landed on this continent with the Spanish about 400 years ago. But here's a piece of history they never taught you in school. That melon moved along native trade routes so fast that when the first English settlers pushed inland, they found watermelons already growing in native gardens hundreds of miles ahead of them. The Cherokee were growing them in the southeast by the 1600s. My grandmother's patch in Oklahoma was the tail end of a chain 300 years long, and in all that time, the old ones held one advantage that the grocery store took away from you. They watched the melon its whole life. You get 30 seconds over a cardboard bin, so they learn to read the outside like a book. Because a watermelon has a peculiar honesty about it, everything that happened to that fruit in the field is written right on the rind, if you know the signs. The store is counting on you not knowing them. Melons get cut early so they can survive the truck ride, and an early melon looks almost exactly like a ripe one to an untrained eye. That is why so many come home disappointing. At $5 and $6 and $8 a melon all summer long, that is real money going into the compost pile. Hold on to that question about the vine and the sugar, because it is coming. And it is the key to this whole lesson. Now, everything I am teaching you today, the melons and the garden signs and the old ways of the woods in the kitchen, has its own page in a book I put together called The Native American Way. 101 remedies, skills, and recipes that kept my people alive for 10,000 years. It is the knowledge my grandmother, Ada, and the elders of Indian country handed me around 1,000 fires, and the old ones never wrote any of it down, so somebody had to. The backyard plants and exactly how they used them, the teas and salves from Ada's kitchen, the wild foods and when to gather them, putting up food the old way, fire and shelter and water, and the recipes that fed the people through every winter. It is written out plain, step by step, for regular folks. Right now it is $17. Marked down from $47, which is about the price of 2 of those disappointing watermelons for knowledge that was 10,000 years in the testing. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you used to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, let's walk over to that melon bin together and start reading. Sign 1 is the ground spot. Every watermelon spent its whole life lying on one side in the dirt, and that side never saw the sun. So it wears a patch with no stripes on it. The old ones read that patch the way you read a gas gauge. What you want is a ground spot, the color of butter. Creamy, warm, deep yellow. That color only comes from a melon that sat on the vine long enough to finish. If that spot is white, put the melon down. If it is pale green, put it down. White means it got picked young. That is the first melon in the bin gone, and you have not thumped a thing yet. Sign 2 is the webbing. Look over the rind for rough, brown, dry lines that spread like cracked mud or old lace. Some folks at the store think that webbing is damage and pass those melons by, and I am glad they do, because they are leaving the sweet ones for you and me. My grandmother called those marks the bee's handwriting. That webbing forms where the flower got visited heavily during pollination, and a well-pollinated melon runs sweeter. Same goes for the little hard black dots you sometimes find, like drops of dried molasses on the rind. That is sugar seeping and drying. The ugly melon in the bin is very often the best melon in the bin. Sign 3 is the coat. A ripe watermelon goes dull. Hold 2 melons side by side under the store lights in the produce section. The shiny one, the one gleaming like it got waxed, is underripe. The one that looks a little cloudy, a little tired, like it has been out in the weather, that one finished its work. This sign takes 2 seconds and most people have never heard of it. Sign 4 is the shape. In my grandmother's patch, the round melons ran sweeter and the long melons ran waterier, and she planted accordingly. But shape tells you something else too, whichever kind you buy. You want an even melon, no flat sides, no lumps, no narrow waist. A lopsided melon got water in fits and starts, and it will taste that way, sweet in one end and washy in the other. Now sign 5, and this one you do with your hands. Wait. Pick up 2 melons of the same size, one in each hand, and just stand there a second like a set of scales. Take your time, there is no rush. A watermelon is better than 9/10 water, and sugar rides in that water. The heavy one for its size is the full one. Light for its size means it is drying out inside, and the flesh has already started going mealy. Heavy always wins. Remember that, same size, heavier melon every time. And keep holding that thought about where the sugar comes from, because we are getting close to it now. Sign 6 is the one I would put on a billboard, and it is the reason for those words on your screen when you click this video. Look at the stem end of the melon. If there is a bit of stem still attached and it is green, do not buy that melon. I will say it again because it matters. A green stem means do not buy. A green stem means somebody cut that melon off a living vine before the vine was done with it, so it could ride a truck across the country without bruising. Out in the field, the old ones never even needed the stem. They watched the little curly tendril, that pigtail piece of vine growing at the same joint as the melon. Green tendril, the melon stays. Brown, dried, dead tendril, the melon is ready. At the store, the dried brown stem, sunk in and shriveled like a cork, is your version of that tendril. Brown and dry, take it home. Green and fresh, walk away. I do not care how pretty the stripes are. And sign 7 is the famous one, the thump. Except now I am going to tell you what your daddy never did, which is what you are actually listening for. Hold the melon up close in one arm and wrap it with your knuckles, right on the belly. A ripe melon answers you with a deep, hollow sound, like knocking on a door with a big empty room behind it. That sound happens because ripe flesh is taut and packed with water under pressure and tight, full flesh rings. An underripe melon gives you a high, hard, dense knock, like wrapping the trunk of an oak tree. And an overripe melon, gone mealy inside, gives you a dull, dead thud, like thumping a sack of flour. You're not listening for noise. You are listening for the ring of a drum, and a drum only rings when the skin is tight. So that is a 7. And that brings us to the part I promised you at the start, because there is one piece of knowledge sitting underneath all 7 of those signs, and it is the reason the old ones treated picking day like a ceremony of patience. A watermelon cannot ripen off the vine. Not one day, not 1 degree, not 1 spoonful of sugar. A banana ripens on your counter. An apple, a pear, a tomato, they all keep going after picking because those fruits carry a pantry of starch inside them. And after harvest, they convert that starch into sugar on their own. A watermelon carries no such pantry. There is no starch in there waiting to turn. Every bit of sweetness in a watermelon was pumped in through the vine, mostly in the last 2 weeks of its life. Sugar built in the leaves by the sun and sent down that green cord into the fruit. The moment that vine is cut, the kitchen closes forever. Whatever sugar is in the melon at that second is all the sugar it will ever have. The old ones did not have a laboratory to tell them that. They had 10,000 years of watching, and they saw the plain truth that a melon picked green stayed poor, no matter how long it sat. So they waited on the vine's own signal, that little brown tendril, before the knife ever came out. Every sign I taught you today, the butter yellow ground spot, the dull coat, the heavy flesh, the dead stem, the ringing drum, every one of them is just a different way of asking the same question. Did the vine finish its work? Now you know how to hear the answer. And that is the kind of thing my grandmother handed me for free. Standing in the garden rows in eastern Oklahoma, there are 101 of them in the Native American way, written out plain, so they do not die with me. The plants, the wild foods, the old preserving, the fire and water skills, and the kitchen that fed the people through every winter. $17, down from $47, and unlike that green-stemmed melon, this one only gets more useful with time. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So remember, it's simple. Butter yellow bottom, brown dead stem, heavy in the hand, and a melon that rings like a drum. If you use these 7 signs at the grocery store this week, come back and tell me how that melon turned out and what state you're in. I read every single one. Next time, I am going to show you the tea my grandmother brewed from the bark of a tree growing in half the backyards in this country, the very remedy the aspirin companies built an entire industry on, and the one mistake in the brewing that ruins it. Wado, my friends. That means thank you. Walk easy, and I'll see you down the trail.